nice. Welcome. And we are live everywhere. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's a great day. It's Tuesday, and I can't believe it. It's Tuesday, the 23rd. It's the 23rd of July. Can you believe that? Is it just me, or is anyone shocked that it's the 23rd day of July, 2019? It seems to me like it was just a few months ago when we started our podcast. I mean, we've been podcasting since 2009 when Blog Talk Radio was a thing. Anyone remember that? Blog Talk Radio? That's how I met Cyrus Webb. You've all heard about Cyrus Webb or seen him on social media. And we started podcasting in 2009. And I literally then had to explain to people what the internet was. When I told people that we had an online radio show in 2009, I had to, believe it or not, I know you guys are laughing like crazy. I had to explain to people what the internet was. People were like, that's crazy. Nobody will ever see that. Nobody will ever listen to that. That was 2009, not so long ago, right? I couldn't explain it enough. And back then I was on what we would call traditional radio now, believe it or not. And I did traditional radio on a Sunday, and then I had a Wednesday segment for those audience members who couldn't join us on a Sunday, right? and so you're in love. Wow. And so when I did the traditional radio segment, what happens was streaming was a new thing. Streaming was a new thing. People didn't even know what streaming was. And so they couldn't, the radio station I was on, the engineer found a way to stream into England, into the UK, right? So I developed a UK audience. Can you dig it? And so what they did was they streamed it through their website. So you could go to their website and you could listen live. That was a whole thing. So people were like, but you have to be confined to a computer, because in 2009, iPhones were just coming in. So they were just developing, what can we say, apps. So that was still very new, right? So people were like, so I got this radical idea of getting an app that people could listen to my shows through. And that became a whole thing. So here we are. Fast forward, it's 2019, and we're doing podcasts within this framework. And the truth is, when I saw the technology, I said, this is the wave of the future. And I even said to some people I know that if radio stations wanted to remain current and relevant, they would have to embrace this new technology and this new way of broadcasting. It was so radical, people laughed me out the door. In fact, I'm going to be honest with you. I was on traditional radio in 2016 in Detroit. And I was simulcasting from Detroit into Cincinnati, Ohio, and Covington, Kentucky, and the smaller towns surrounding Covington and Kentucky, because Kentucky and Ohio are right across the border. So, and I remember telling an advertiser who owns a funeral home on the east side of Detroit that the wave of the future was podcasting, and that, he should embrace this new wave. And his girlfriend was broadcasting on radio in Detroit. And I don't know what she did. She must have did it to him real good. He couldn't embrace it. He couldn't embrace what I saw, because she was telling him this was all radio was going to be. They laughed me. He laughed at me. Well, guess who doesn't have a job today? She doesn't, because her radio station is off air. They were traditional gospel music. And they were playing gospel music, and I knew that it was not going to last. I said, that's not sustainable in the current market, because radio stations are in the business of making money. And if they only have one genre and it's not productive, it's not going to last. He didn't listen to me. He listened to her. So she's now off there. He still has his funeral home, because people die every day. So as he used to say, they're dying to get in. But she doesn't have a job. They're no longer together, because as long as she was on radio, it suited him. You see what I'm saying? But he couldn't wrap his mind around this new thing. He couldn't see it. And she didn't want to see it because she thought that traditional radio was always going to be in a studio with a microphone. And I said, this is going out the window. People will be able to broadcast from wherever they are. Nobody listened. So there is a cost to being a visionary, right? And that's a message for all of you. If you're a visionary and this is what you see, then it is what it is. You can't spend your time defending your position as a visionary. That's not what you are called to do. You can't defend it. What you're called to do is to speak it and do it. If they're with you, they're with you. If they don't, guess what? You're going to do it anyway. One thing I have learned about being a visionary is that a visionary has the mental capacity and the mental strength and the physical and emotional capacity to execute the vision that's given to you. So whoever chooses not to join your bandwagon, it's on them. They're going to be left behind in the rearview mirror, and they're going to be in the dust of the past, of your past, because that's where they belong, because that's what happens to people who don't believe. You see what I'm saying? But as the visionary, you continue to move forward and speak and do as you see. What comes to your mind, it is what it is. For a visionary sees the finished product before it even gets off the ground, before it's even done. And so in my story, I could see that this is what broadcasting in the next wave is going to look like. And it really isn't that surprising, is it? Because you remember when people had ham radios, when radio first started broadcasting, it evolved out of World War II. This is why I say the past history and the past is a guide to the future. Because if you really thought about it, if how radio began was ham radios, right? So people could broadcast across states without using traditional forms of conveying messages, then of course it makes sense that it would come through this medium, doesn't it? And you're all nodding your heads like, absolutely. Right. So what was the point of me trying to defend my position that I'm not going to continue to pay for radio while I can do this, right? And have the same effect. And he did not see it. He didn't see it. So I left them. She doesn't have a job. And she's standing on the sidelines like, what happened? You don't stay current. The thing with visionaries is that a visionary is always current. A visionary is never someone who you can attribute to the past, because the visionary is standing in the present with history behind them while they're looking to the future and is in control and is wrapped in the present, the past, and the future. That's the difference with a visionary. A visionary is powerful. And some of you are called to be visionaries, and people think you're freaky and weird. For years, they thought my ideas were totally out of the box. People thought I was freaky because I could see things happening. People wanted to go out with me, and I'm like, you don't belong in my future. You can't be with me. I don't want to be with you because you're not a part of the future. Do you see what I'm saying? And so people had no idea. People thought you're weird, you're freaky, because you see things before they happen. People have even told me that cannot be done. When I was talking about this, people said it cannot be done, it wouldn't be done. I'm like, there's coming a time when computers are going to be this. This was way back when CD players were just coming in. And people thought I was crazy and so on. They don't have much sense, right? So I'm just here to encourage you. It's a terrific Tuesday. That if that is who you find yourself as, speak as you get unction to speak. Speak as it is seen to you, and do. And if they don't join you, if they don't want to be part of it, good luck to them, still build it. You remember a man called Noah? A friend of mine, Dr. Tarver, called me yesterday and we were talking, and she shared a message to me about Noah's Ark in a way that I had never looked at it before. And when she told me about Noah's Ark, I began to see some things in that story that are indicative and replicative of who some of us are, right? Some of us are called to be a Noah. You build something before it even starts. Remember Steve Jobs? He was a Noah. He built something before the need became evident. He built the Macintosh, the precursor to the iPad, the precursor to the iPhone. He built it before he even thought of it, right? You didn't even know you needed it until he built it. And then you're like, oh, wow, we should have been using that all this time. I have an iPad that I travel with whenever I'm going anywhere because it's much easier, more portable than a laptop, right? You will know I have it. It doesn't look bulky. I can take it out. I can sign documents. I download apps and I can sign apps and sign documents and so on. I can view, I can talk, I can broadcast. I can do it from anywhere. You didn't know you needed it, but someone else had the idea and the vision to do it. In much the same way, somebody has the cure to cancer and they will bring it to pass. And we're going to sit back and say, oh my God, why didn't we think of this before? Visionaries are powerful, and they're the people who often get ostracized the most. They're the people who get picked on the most, right? Dr. Martin Luther King was a visionary. Abraham Lincoln was a visionary. I have found that most people who became presidents of the United States were visionaries. The ones who didn't, they were the one-term president. But those who stayed there for a while, they had a vision of a future, right? And they saw something. If you listen to their messages, you can see that they were visionaries because they saw a future. Most effective leaders are visionaries, right? Because you see something in the future. That's part of being a leader. You see something and you guide the people to that which you see. Some will join, some won't. Some think that it's crazy, it's not for them. That's fine. Your project and your belief on what you want to do is not for everyone. That's the first thing you need to recognize. It's not for everybody. Everyone cannot do what you do. Everyone cannot see it the way you see it. But for those who do, you share it with them, you encourage them, and good. And if they don't, guess what? As the visionary, you have the tenacity, the audacity, the boldness, and the energy that is required, the mental energy, the charisma to get others to believe in what you see. And don't be afraid of the flack that comes when people envy you. They try to take away from you and they envy you because they can't do what you do. You've all been there, right? You start saying something, you start a project, suddenly everybody wants to do the same thing. So you're thinking, I just shined a light on it. No, they're trying to walk in your stream. That's okay. They can't do what you do because they don't have your intellect, they don't have your insight, and they don't have your unique perspective. A visionary is a thought leader. The way you think is what makes you win. Everybody, my mother used to say 7 brothers, 7 different minds. It's like 7 different people. Everyone does not think the same. And how you think makes you the winner. You can be in a situation where there's racism all around. There could be colorism all around. There could be classism all around. There could be all kinds of negatives and obstacles in your path. But you win. What makes the difference? The way you think. So celebrate you on this terrific Tuesday. Celebrate the visionary in you and the fact that you have won. You're still here. You have overcome. So go start the project, right? Go do it. I was thinking about myself this morning, and for months, I've been struck. I'm someone who is very energetic. My children say that I wake up in the mornings and I'm like, let's go. I don't know. I think I'm not a morning person, but they said, no, that's not true. You wake up in the morning and you have us all stirred up. And for about 5 or 6 months, I felt like I didn't even have that kind of energy. And for the first time in months, I woke up this morning and my energy has come back. It's like my spiritual energy came back, my kinetic energy, my mental energy, my emotional energy. And that's what I need because physically, I'm strong. Physically, I'm together. Physically, you do all the things you're supposed to do, right? But don't let negatives and people with their negative mindsets and their negative thoughts influence the vision that's been given to you. And I'm just going to tell you this, and I'm done with this because this wasn't where I was going this morning, but somebody needed to hear this, right? When I first started in radio, I didn't have jack. Are you listening to me? I was working a full-time job and consulting on the side for community-based healthcare entities here in Southeast Michigan. That's what I did for a living, right? I set up 25 community-based healthcare agencies in Michigan. And I didn't have Jack. I didn't have the kind of support system that is required to carry out the dream that I had. I wanted to be on radio, and I wanted to publish my books and be a speaker to talk about ending violence against women and children, and to talk about ways in which we can improve our relationships, just like I'm doing now. That was my vision. I wanted to write books. I wanted to bring attention nationally and internationally to the plight of women in war zones who were damaged by violence. I refer to it as sexualized violence in war zones. And I had a vision. I had a mindset and a way that I thought it could be done, but I didn't have the money. Well, God helped me. The universe sent what? Sent the internet. I saw the internet and I said, media. I didn't care if they called it social media. I'm like, social? It's media. What are you talking about? Everyone else saw obstacles and all this. And they told me it couldn't be done. They told me it would never be done. They told me it was impossible. They told me no one would listen to me because I speak with an accent that is not American. Are you hearing this? And look at all of you. Thanks to all of you, you're listening to me anyway. You're like, I hear you just clearly. They told me that it couldn't be done, that someone with my background, what's my background? That I was beaten up by my ex-husband. That's my background. They told me it couldn't be done because of my ethnicity. And here I am today. I've been on some of the most interesting spaces, talking to some of the most interesting people about the subject that I know that I was called to speak on. So when they tell you it can't be done, I published my books on a wing and a prayer. I didn't have millions of dollars for marketing. No marketing company, no publishing company came after me. I published them anyway. Musings of the Spirit, visions that somebody else used to steal my idea and make a movie out of called 2012, right? I kid you not, right? And Through the Fire. My other book is coming out in a few months after the fact. They told me it couldn't be done. But here I am today. I went on radio, no money. I went on radio here in Detroit, no money. Started podcasting through a medium called Blog Talk Radio with nothing. Did a free trial for 30 days and hope I'd have the money for the next 30 days. Amen. Are you hearing me? So when they tell you that it can't be done, don't listen to that. If I had listened to the obstacles and the negatives, the fact that I was a single parent, raising 2 daughters by myself, I was single. I didn't have the support system. I didn't have a husband or second sort of income. I didn't get child support, none of that stuff. I had to rely on my intellect and my faith to take me through that what I thought could be done could be done. Therein is the power of being a visionary. Don't let anyone fool you or tell you that it can't be done. You have an idea. It's a powerful idea that is life-changing. Whenever I go somewhere to speak, you know the words, the same people remember people used to tell me it can't be done and people would not understand me. When I go somewhere to speak, you know one of the most common words people used to describe me? Guess. That was powerful. That was meaningful. That was life-changing. You impacted me. Can I invite you somewhere to come and tell the story? Are you listening? But yet, if I had listened to the negatives, it would never be done. My own family members, to this day, a few days ago, my nephews are staying with me. Their mom is on vacation or wherever, I don't know. They just drop the kids off. And I'm not going to say no to small children, right? It's not the children's fault, right? And I took my nephew to IHOP for breakfast. And he looked at a sign on the window and he said, Auntie Harriet, you wrote that. And I said, wow, I didn't know you know that I was writing. He said, yes, you write stuff. Do you write songs too? You should write a song. I will listen to it on the radio. I saw you on the news. See what I'm saying? But when I started, they were the ones. His mother was the one who said it couldn't be done, it can't be done, and objected and did everything possible to stop it from going forward. You cannot listen to the negatives. You've got to keep on keeping on, punching holes in the walls if you have to, Eat you if you have to, whatever. Know that even if you eat, you're not going to gain weight because your kinetic energy is going to defy and define everything around you. Do what you have to do. Spend many sleepless nights, yes, but you never know. I wake up the next morning and put the makeup on and keep it going, right? Had many days when I didn't even know how I was going to get from point A to point B. My car, I had a Range Rover, I still have it, drove on fumes, didn't even know how I was going to buy gas, still did it anyway. Didn't know how I was going to set up the shelter, did it anyway. Didn't know I was going to publish the first book, did it anyway. Everything that they said couldn't be done was done because of the power of being a visionary. Do not quit. Do not give up. Don't you ever let anyone else define your boundaries or your borders. You become your own defining mechanism. My daughter had a dream that she wanted to be an attorney. My marriage fell apart. My ex-husband made sure that all the money that was put aside to send my daughter to college, he took it all. It disappeared. We had no money left, no college fund, nothing. Got divorced, had no house. Can you imagine? I've lived on my own from I was 16. At 23, I had my own home. And can you believe I reached midlife and had not my own home? Do you know what that could have done? I had to rent an apartment, then rented a house. That was just anathema to me. That I was like, oh my God, how could this be? But I stayed focused on the prize, on the vision. I got to get the books out. I got to walk according to the vision. My daughter needed to go to law school. We had to find a way to do it. Of course, there was a way to do it. You know what happened? She stayed true to the call. Today, she's an attorney at law. So who won? She did. My ex-husband, did he win? No, because he thought if he took all the money, it wouldn't be done. But he did never met this girl. I am a visionary. I have the energy, the mental energy. I have faith and a strong belief that God called me to do this and I would get it done. What do you believe about yourself? Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe that you have the power to do what you are called to do? Some of you are writing books, you're writing comics, and you're like, they don't even do comic strips anymore. Who told you that? Make it a graphic and put it up in an app. They'll download it and play with it. Today, the children, the alpha generation, all they know are tablets. I have two nephews here. They play with our tablets all day. That's all they know. Download an app. Make it into an app. You want to succeed? Put it in an app and put it out there. Yes, you can do it. Yes, you can upload your app. Just make it so that it is compliant. You know what to do. Make it so it's compliant with your platform on Google Play or on Apple or whatever. Put it out there. So they tell you it can't be done. There is a way to do it. We set up the Exodus Foundation. We did. All I had was a little money. My mama died and left me. But I said, I got to do what I've been called to do. We set it up anyway. Didn't get a grant from a soul, not from the government, not from the state government. I swear they hate me at the state government. I swear to God, the state of Michigan, the Department of Community Health. I've never applied for a grant that I've been successful at. Can't get it done. But you know what happens? They give it to whom they like, right? They give it. So what? I did it anyhow. People still call me when their family members are in danger of being trafficked or have been trafficked. I still answer my phone. I still do it anyhow. Do you see what I'm saying? Ask for contributions and donations. Don't get a lick. Still do it anyhow. Do you see what I'm saying? You can't let the roar of the crowd determine how you go through. Still do it anyhow. Go through it and do it. And those who don't want to, that's fine. Leave them behind. Let them stay in the dust. Let the dust. All they will do for the rest of time is try to clear the dust off their face as they watch you just keep moving in the future. Just keep it moving. Just do what you have to do, right? And here I am today, right? And here you are on your way to making sure that you succeed in your vision, right? Right? So what are you going to do now? It's a terrific Tuesday, right? Make sure that you keep on keeping on. Don't let anybody tell you how to quit. Don't let anybody dictate your boundaries or your parameters or what you can or can't do. Listen to what you've been called to do. And when in doubt, Just go back to center and pray about it. I don't start anything without praying about it. If I have to say goodbye to someone, trust me, I've prayed about it. It's either or it's not going to be. I'm one of those persons. I listen to a whole lot of stories. I listen to all the foolishness and all the baloney. And then when I make a decision, this is it. I come to a place, I make the decision, and this is it. Right? So make sure that you come to center and you do it. I love you. I am proud of you. And I know there are winners here. I know you have a vision. It's never too late. Listen, y'all, I'm 52. They told me it was too late to start. I should have started when I was in my 20s. Dude, when I was in my 20s, I was busy having fun. I wasn't thinking about that, right? I had a different focus, right? But it's never too late to start. And at 52, I am so grateful that I have the energy and the vitality to keep doing this. And my prayer for myself is that I have enough energy to finish the task, that I stay here for another 50 years to finish what I've been called to do, and that I look great at any stage, right? My goal is to when I turn 70, I'm going to look like I'm 30. That's my goal. My daughter is like, Mom, and I'm like, well, you can put in fillers, and then she's like, and then you won't be able to talk. You won't have any expression because this is all you'll sound. And I'm like, but it will look good. Right? So do what you've been called to do and do it well. Right? Stay true to it. I feel you on that. Stay true to it. Stay true to it. I stayed true to it, and it stayed with me. And thank God for that. Right? So today I want to talk about sex in the workplace. We've wrapped up our series on sex in the workplace, and we've started talking about sexual addiction, and then we got into sex in the workplace, and today we're wrapping it up. So our new series, For Better or For Worse, starts. So what happens when sex in the workplace leads to marriage? That is probably the best outcome. Stay true, and keep on. I just feel you. Keep on doing it, right? Probably the best outcome to sex in the workplace is, of course, when it leads to marriage. That's the ideal, isn't it? But that rarely happens. It does happen, but it rarely does. But that's the outcome that we all want. That's a desired outcome, because we have explored that sex in the workplace is about power and control. And so I was talking with my friend Wade McCree, and he had an interesting perspective on this. He said that sex in the workplace, from a man's perspective, men look at women and say, wow, that's a nice looking person. That's something I think I would be interested in. Whereas for us women, we're looking at it like, am I going to be the end loser? Is this going to affect me professionally in a negative way? Or is this going to be good for me? But from a man, he's just looking at having fun or a good time. And then you go out and you find that you have things in common, and you start dating. And before you know it, the dating turns serious. People are quick to move in today. Can I just suggest that you all wait a bit before you move in? I'm a fan of going for a test drive before you get married. Like, you've committed to marriage, right? Okay. So 3 months before you get married. So the date is set for, let's say, today's July 23rd. So let's say you're going to get married January 23rd, right? Okay, so 3 months before January 23rd, I think you should move in together. I think you should take it for a test run. If your plan is to live together in matrimony harmoniously, you need to take it for a test drive. You can't marry someone. You see all this foolishness you see on TV with Married at First Sight? You meet someone and you know that you are supposed to marry them. You feel that this is the one. But there is a process. You know why there's a process? The process is designed to test your love and your commitment and the way you feel. Now, if you really love the person, no matter what happens, you're going to what? Stay with it, because you love the person. Ultimately, you love the person. But for some people come to marriage from a different background, a different perspective. They have a different idea on how marriage should be, either based on experience, based on the fact that they experienced were negatives, right? So they come to marriage from a different place. And because of that, The way they carry out marriage is different. You see this happening all the time. Have you guys ever wondered why the divorce rate is so high? Well, we need to talk about that. We need to talk about why is divorce so high. It's because people come from different places. People are experienced in different ways. People see love in happening in different ways. People see relationships played out in different ways. And so when they come to marriage and you tell people that marriage is permanent for better or for worse, people are like, what? I can't get out of this? I'm stuck? So you need to look at it different. We need to understand that marriage is permanent. Marriage was never built with an exit sign. Marriage is a highway. There are no exits off there. You don't get off here when the children turn 2. You don't get off if you have a child who is autistic. You don't get to run away because you lost a job. You don't get to jump off because your spouse got sick. You don't get to jump off because your spouse's parents have to move in. You don't get to jump off because your kids went to college and one of them ended up on drugs and they have to come home and know you're going to blame each other. That's something you did or didn't do. Marriage does not have an exit. Marriage is here to stay. And I think what we have done is commercialize marriage and present it as an option. We tell people that you can live together and you don't have to get married. And so marriage becomes transient. So it's like I can go in if I don't like it. Heck, I just spent $35,000 and I'm going to be in credit card debt anyway. I can just leave it. And what happens is people end up leaving marriage and thinking it's okay. It's not okay. As far as I'm concerned, if you paid for someone to get married and you gave them a gift and they leave it after 2 or 3 years, God, we all should say, look, give me back my money. Anybody feeling me? Anybody out there with me? Right? Say, you need to give me back my money. You took my money and went and got married, and then after 2 or 3 years, have you guys noticed that? People just walk away from marriage like it's free willy, like it's nothing. We take the same approach to relationships. We go into relationships like it's free willy, like people don't have anything. People sit down nowadays and they text and they're in the same room sitting around. And it's like, like, oh, you ready? You want to hook up? And I'm sitting there like, huh? And I'm like, that's how people do it today? I mean, my daughter was role playing and she said, this is how it happens today. And I was like, oh my God, we are too transient about marriage. And this is why in a lot of workplace settings, from the leadership's point of view, they discourage dating because when it goes bad, it goes south pretty quickly. And when it goes south, it tends to have negative ramifications and impacts on the workplace environment. But it also has negative ramifications on you. People come out a little bit jaded. They don't want to date anymore. They don't like that kind of person. You know, they don't like that. People who have different backgrounds. I remember one of the challenges that I had, I was telling someone how I stayed stuck in a 13-year marriage that was absolutely horrible because I didn't want to be a statistic. I did not want to be the single parent with children. I did not want to be that category. So I stayed in a marriage that was broken and that broke me and that was going to break my bones if I had not exited that. Those are scenarios that are extreme, walk away. But today, people are so quick to walk away from relationships where nothing is wrong. A spouse gets sick. Did you do the part for better or for worse? Anyone remembers that? And this is why I say, especially for women, don't just shack up with some guy. If he likes it enough, put a ring on it. You work in the same space and it's convenient for him because now he has someone who picks up his dry cleaning. When he goes home, he has meals at home. The bathroom is always clean. The bed is made. He doesn't have to do his laundry. He doesn't have to go grocery shopping. Those are all wifely stuff. If he likes it, put a ring on it. Guys, if you like it so much, put a ring on it. Commit to it. Put a ring on it. We're going to get married in 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. Put a ring on it. And in that time frame that you work it out, spend time with one another, spend time around each other's family, spend time around friends, because you want to know which family members to avoid as the relationship develops. So spend time around one another. How much money do we have? How much money do you have? How much money do I have? What kind of wedding can we afford? Do we want a big wedding, a small wedding, a medium wedding? Is it okay if we just go down there and then have a reception afterwards? Because after all, what matters is the living together part of it. Can we afford to buy a home together? Ladies, don't just move into his house. Put your name, have your name on the deed. And if he's not going to do it, then don't do it. Because he doesn't care about you. If something happens to him, are the family members going to come? He'd have to drop dead for you to get anything. But what if he suddenly changes his mind that he doesn't want to be with you anymore? After 2 or 3 or 4 years of you paying the mortgage and contributing to the household expenses, you don't have anything saved because you were busy living, and now you don't have anything to show. I guess the same thing works for men. You move into her house, but is your name on the deed? These are fundamental issues that people going in are so excited and are happy in their hormones, right? Isn't it true? You're happy in your hormones and you don't think about it until it goes bad. You're marrying someone who has more wealth than you do. Do you have any protections? They're probably going to ask you to sign a non-disclosure agreement, or they're going to ask you to sign a prenuptial agreement. Are you comfortable with it? Practical things. How much debt do you have? What do you believe about children? Do you have children? Do you plan on having more children? Talk about these things before it gets worse. Don't just get happy because your hormones are happy and you make a decision because you just had the greatest sex and it just feels so good and this is the person you want to be with. If they have to move in with you, you probably need to start thinking long term. What does this mean? And I know I get the stuff. I've been single for too long. Let's just say that. It's been too long. But it was by choice. I was raising children and I didn't want my children to be damaged as a result of my actions. I didn't know what kind of people, and I didn't trust people because people are weird and freaky nowadays. And I didn't want to bring them into my home to be able to affect my children. And frankly, I didn't meet anyone who wanted to put a ring on it. People look like they wanted to have a good time, and I'm not anybody's good time girl. Do you see what I'm saying? So I wasn't going to, so you don't be, when you talk to people, so you don't believe in marriage? Oh, you've been married before, but you don't want to get married again. So why am I going out with you? Bye. Have fun. That was me. I tend to be black and white above that. It's either or. I'm not just going to, you want a good time. Well, have fun. You can download an app for that. Yeah. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? So we have to, because we've become so transient. Everyone is selfish and self-centered. It's about me and what I want. No one thinks about the union. My grandparents were married when my grandpa died, they had been together like maybe mom was like 40 something, right? So it was like a really long time, right? It was like a really, really long time, right? It was so long, I can't even remember, right? And somebody's asking me a question. And what did you say? What do you talk about? And so what happens is we tend to look at people who have stayed together as if that's an anomaly, as if that's not supposed to happen. But that is the goal. You're better when you are together. You're more stable. You have a better mindset. But for the love of God, choose someone, right? Choose someone. Yes, gospel. Music, if that's what you're asking. I like all kinds of music. I listen to all kinds of music, right? But choose someone who is likely to be with you for a while. We don't know how long forever lasts. None of us have lived forever. but choose someone whom you're most likely to get along with. And guys, I'm not gonna. I am the last person to tell anyone about being divorced. Look at me. I've been divorced for too long, right? It's been too long. But the problem is, I didn't. And I'm going to be the first to tell you that my problem was I didn't marry the right person. If I had married the right person, chances are I probably would have still stayed married. But I didn't marry the right person, so it was wrong to begin with. And it never corrected itself because marrying the wrong person means it's going to be wrong, right? So we need not be happy in our home. So while you're having sex in the workplace and all of a sudden you decide that you're going to move in, understand what you're going to move into. Sometimes we don't have discussions about that. Even if you're engaging in a casual scenario, right? That's what people do. You engage in a casual scenario. Do you talk about, well, who is going to be responsible for what? And who is going to do what? I believe in marriage. I think marriage is better. I don't believe that you should live together forever. I believe even if you have a contract that says this is what happens and this is what happens, I believe marriage is the best choice, right? It gives you permanence and stability, or at least the thinking of it. But it also gives you commitment. This is why today, when people are getting divorced, it's now, no fault divorce. And so you ask people questions, well, why? Recently, I heard a story about a couple, things happen, right? There are too many cases where people exit a marriage because they didn't like what was going on. You have children and one of the children is unwell and you decide to leave and leave the burden on one parent. That's not right. People choose to walk away. We need to talk to one another before you get married. Know what you're walking into. Recently here in Southfield, I don't know what happened, but a woman killed her husband and dragged his body out into the front yard. Y'all listening to that? And then the police showed up and they had a 10-hour standoff. Like, what on earth was going on? She shot him dead and dragged his body outside. So the police came and took his body up. But she wouldn't come outside for 10 hours. Finally, they got her out of the house on a stretcher. It could have been a case of a mental issue. Know the people you're getting connected with. Ask questions, right? I know someone who is bipolar, and she was dating a guy who is bipolar. In fact, he had taken time off from work for mental illness, for mental exhaustion, right? And he had spent 3 months in an inpatient facility. So now he's out. And she said she's dating him. And I said, you're bipolar and he's bipolar. Is that a good fit for you and your children, do you think? And she looked at me and said, think about it. Think about it. I said, that is not even something you should think about. Find someone whom you're on even footing with. Do you see what I'm saying? Sometimes we connect with people and you don't know their full history. And you end up on a sliding scale where something goes wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got to talk it out. Say, talk it out. Talk it out. We've got to find out what the real story is. Talk to people. And this is why, for many of us, I know people meet in all kinds of spaces. Some people met in college and they got married and stayed married for 20 odd years until the children left. And then all of a sudden you want to test drive your youth again. So you go find something younger and you die within 5 years. Statistically speaking, yes, these things happen. I've noticed that people who live longer have been married longer. Check it out. Check it out. The second marriage thing, they usually die real quick. Well, the stress of it. Because I just think it's kind of God's way of getting back, right? I don't know. I'm just saying. Depends on what happened in the first marriage, right? So the question is, for better or for worse. So you meet in the workplace, you enjoy each other, and you're gonna hang out together, and you decide to get married. I'm looking at the time, and then all of a sudden you forgot about that part that it's for the better or for worse part. I remember when I got married. I remember the preacher who was marrying us saying the for better or for worse part, in sickness and in health. And I kept thinking, why is he focused on that? And before we got married, we had gone to premarital counseling. But to be honest with you, it was skewed in his way. It's like the pastor was asking me questions that it sounded like my ex-husband told him to ask. Because they didn't consult me, because they didn't ask any of the questions that were on my mind. And I remember when he said for better or for worse, that did come to pass. Yeah, and I stuck with it. But when it was his turn, he beat me up. I did stick with it. I did stick with it because at the end of the day, I didn't want to be a statistic, right? So what is your motivation for getting married? Are you getting married because you're lonely? Wrong reason. Don't do that, because then you'll marry the wrong person. Are you getting married because you're broke? Wrong reason. You will marry the wrong person, get in the wrong scenario. Why are you getting married? Are you getting married because it's great sex, and great sex is the way to live, man? And if you don't have great sex, you're going to leave one another. And a lot of you guys are laughing because you're like, Harriet, be quiet. You know it's true. Mm-hmm. No. Right? Why are we getting married? Are you getting married because you have harmony, or you live together and you feel that you can work out your issues, whatever may come? Then do it. You like each other enough, you feel that you love one another, then do it. You met in the workplace. Okay, so the workplace was situational, right? That's all that it existed, was to bring you together. But now real life starts. I think the problem really is, especially in today's world, we look at marriage through the lens of a fairy tale. Here's why I think so. In today's world, people, for the first time in many, many decades, we have an inside look into people's lives, right? You have an inside look into mine. I have an inside look into yours through this medium, right? And so what happens, we call it social media. But what happens is we have an inside look into rich people's lives. So now you see how they really live. You see their homes, reality shows per se. Yeah. You see how they live. And people want to live like that. People want to have a baby bump. You see all these young people, oh, look at my baby bump on Instagram. Look at all the stuff I'm getting for baby. And then the baby is born and real life happens. And nobody is equipped can't handle the real life stuff. And when trouble comes, because that's life. That's the stuff that happens during your marriage. Guess what? It's life. It's life when you can't pay the bills. It's life when you have more bills than money. It's life when the children act out. It's life when you get fired from work. It's life when your boss acts out. It's life when you wake up in the morning because you overslept the night before because you're tired, you're burnt out. It's life when the eggs are burnt and the toast is burnt. It's life when the steak got burned because you had to go run and put another extra load in the laundry and you forgot to turn the stove off. It's life when the laundry bleach ended up on something. Ouch. It's life when you didn't pay a bill. It's life when you prioritize something else over something else. It's life when your child can't do soccer or ballet because you don't have enough money to do that, but you want to keep up with the Joneses because the Joneses kids are doing the same thing. It's life. That's the stuff that real life is made of. That's not when you hang up the exit sign. That's not when you exit. That's when you sit there and work it out. Too often we're ready to throw in the towel and quit over the stuff that is life. You go to divorce court and you're in family court. I call it divorce court. They call it family court. And you go to family court and you hear the things that people are arguing over. The division of the pots and the pans and who bought the refrigerator. And you listen to how intricate and interwoven lives are. Ladies and gentlemen, don't make this decision lightly. Just because you had sex one night at work and you went home and it felt good, don't make a lifetime decision based on a temporary situation. Do you see what I'm saying? Because your lives become intricate. Have you ever noticed when you're getting divorced, you literally have to split everything. You have to detail how much debt you have. It's alarming to me. You have to sit down and list all the credit cards. So people found out that their spouses had credit cards they didn't know of. People were earning more than they declared because one person handled all the finances in the marriage. And after 25 years, here you come and you find out that your spouse had more money and had been hiding it and tucking it away. So now you have to, get a forensic accountant to go dig deep into the stuff. Real life, real issues, real people. So before you get married, talk it out, because this is the thing. It's for better or for worse. We all look forward to the for better part. The for better part is the fairy tale part. The part where you sail into the sunset together and you're holding hands when you're 65, sailing into Medicare and Social Security together. Riding your Harley or your hog, or, going down the beach on a beach in Florida somewhere, sipping whatever older folks sip. I don't know. It's not mimosa. That's too strong with their blood pressure medicine and diabetic medicine. I kid you not. These things, it's real life. That's the for better part. But there is some part that is for worse. The stuff I just talked about. The stuff where you don't agree on which school your child should go to. The stuff where you don't agree that you should send your child to a private school even though you can't afford it, but you want to take equity out of the house to go pay for a private college when you can't send them to a public institution. The stuff that you don't agree on, that you can't afford soccer, but you think it might give your kid a soccer scholarship, so you keep putting it on your credit card every month, and you max out a credit card, and when an emergency comes, the basement floods, the car needs a new engine, you need a new this, new that, and you don't have the money to do it, and you're maxed out, you can't get any more credit. Real life happens. Disagreements come. Parents, family members, you give your sister, you give your brother a loan, you give this a loan. Parents, you have ex and you have children, and you have to split the parenting responsibilities with your children from the previous marriage. And the spouse from the previous marriage is as hard to deal with. Real life stuff. So while we're busy having sex in the workplace and toasting and cheering and going home and thinking it's all good, know that the stuff that makes up real life, the for better part, is real good. But for worse, that matters too. If we can understand and deal with the for worse part, guess what? The rest of it is a cakewalk. Just get to the hard stuff. Deal with the hard stuff up front. What's your credit like? How much debt do you have? Have you ever filed for bankruptcy? Ask those tough questions up front. Do you have life insurance? Do you have any savings? Do you have anything tucked away? You own anything? Have something, right? You don't have anything? Okay, know what you're getting into. Deal with the for worse part. How do you feel about sickness? This is something we don't ask each other up front. How do you feel if something happens to you? Who is responsible? Who is going to come? What do you want from me to do? Ask those tough questions, the for worse part. And then you'll find the for better part is a cakewalk. And now that you know, go live. Love the person you have. Wrap them at the end of this day when you see them. As a matter of fact, when you're done with me in about 2 minutes, send them a text message. Say, hey, I was just thinking about you. And I just want you to know that you absolutely rock my world. And I love you to the moon and back. If that's how you feel, let's work it out. Whatever it is, I love you. We can climb any mountain. We can work it out, right? For better or for worse. Thanks so much, everybody. I love you all. Terrific Tuesday. It's a good day. Go out, live it, enjoy it, and join me tomorrow. I think tomorrow we're going to talk some more about this $15 an hour for minimum wage. You want to join me? You want us to talk in? Make sure you send me your comments about that. I want to hear what you have to say, right? Thanks so much. Go to my website, harrietkamak.com or the exodusfoundation.com. We provide services to victims of human sex trafficking. So any donation you give to us, we appreciate it because you help us to do it. We're a 501c3 tax-exempt organization. That means all deductions are tax deductible. Thank you in advance for your support. And I thank you. We need your support to keep doing what we do. Bless you. Thanks so much, everybody. See you tomorrow, right? See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Be blessed, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. And now let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say, I am rich, because